really wanted to address the elephant in the room, Islamophobia. There was some chatter about that prior to your coming. And three quick questions. Would you openly and categorically reject fear-mongering of Muslims in Canada? And I'm not going to use the word Islamophobia because that's open to interpretation. So I'm saying fear-mongering and hate-mongering of Muslims in Canada.
So the first question, yes, absolutely. We denounce all fear-mongering. And those that are targeted against the Muslim faith and those who practice it are completely unacceptable and have no place in Canada. I have said that publicly. I've said that in the House of Commons. I've said that in my speeches. It is something that perhaps I need to say more, because there certainly is this misconception, and I think some of this, and I'll speak to this in a moment, some of it is my political opponents trying to score cheap political points off of issues of the day that happened. Second, commented, made public comments in the past that are derogatory, that single out the Muslim faith, that unfairly target, or that spread the fear about the Muslim faith, or that would feed into that those elements that try to blame or to unfairly target the Muslim community. We have told people that they are not welcome in our party, and they have no place in our party, they have no place in our movement. And I don't think I'd have the candidates that are sitting here beside me if we did anything other than that. Mm-hmm. So yes, we'll continue to do that.
Well, the third about disassociation from nationalist groups.
Yes, yeah, and this is the part that I'm glad you asked that, because this is something.
The rebel jackets and the fake Goldie. And
no, exactly, and this is something the Liberals are definitely trying to make very weak links. I've always, a friend of mine back in Saskatchewan has always told me that you won an argument with a Liberal when they start accusing you of things like this, when they start hurling those personal insults and drawing those links because they have nothing else to argue with. So we had an event on Parliament Hill called the United We Will Conference. It was organized by people who have been out of work in Alberta, who have lost their jobs in the energy sector, and they were protesting the carbon tax and legislation against the pipelines. There were other elements that tried to graft onto it, and the organizers of that event said, absolutely, you're not welcome. They were told that this was an energy sector. Faith Goldie was on the street after I spoke and got up and said something. It was not sanctioned as part of the event, but it was just enough for the Liberals to start making completely baseless attacks on me. It's completely unfair, and it's actually, I find it very disgusting that they would use the very real elements of our society that need to be pushed out of mainstream Canadian conversation. We need to denounce those who spread anti-Muslim sentiments, and to try to paint that kind of a broad brush, I believe, actually makes that harder to do, because they're linking it to things that have nothing to do with it. It does a disservice to the desperate people who are out of work in Alberta, who are unfairly linked to those elements after doing everything they could. So my commitment to you is to always be very vocal against those types of individuals and organizations. We will completely disassociate. We've sent that message that they're not welcome, they have no place in our party when they start spreading those
because prior to this existing government, we were on the conservative side. We were actually campaigning for them. We were supporting them. But then when we start hearing from our previous Prime Minister, Islamism, a new term that we've never heard of, or barbaric cultural practices, and some of the things that were being proposed of the hotline back in those days, it breaks us from within. And then the Muslim community is just weary of they're weary. Will things of this nature be repeated? How do we know? Those are the types of questions that are going to be asked.
I appreciate that, and it's obviously it's difficult for a politician to rebuild trust once it's lost, and I can understand where you're coming from, and I'm not surprised that you would raise these concerns. We've certainly heard that as feedback from our candidates in the last election and members of parliament who in 2011 had the support of your community, and then in 2015 not only is the support not there, but the support has shifted to
it was really out of desperation. That's really what it was. It was really out of desperation. I was just saying this yesterday. If we didn't have those elements, right now I believe that Stephen Harper would still be the Prime Minister of Canada if those things didn't happen.
So I can make that commitment to you that those types of policies will not be pursued. I hope you can trust me on that.
Yes.
Comforting to know.
Well, and I will make that pledge to you, and I will come back here after the election.
Thank you.
In connection with the LGBT community, which is now an integral part of the society here. So, of course, it is good to respect them, and they have their rights with the government. However, such values are kind of prohibitory in the Muslim community, and hence, so we wanted to request you not to enlighten the students with such literature in Muslim concentrated schooling, because this is a big concern for us. So the students should be given the choice if they want to learn about this or not, rather than implementing the respect or the schooling and the concepts of this provision. Yeah. So I thought of just sharing this with you.
Well, obviously, it's important that we promote respect and tolerance of all people. Which, as Ashak mentioned, that is the thing is about school issues, and that is provincial. So I will defer to them on that, but I can tell you that we in the Conservative Party believe very strongly in treating all people, LGBT, any other community in Canada equally, and ensuring that they have fundamental human rights protected. And at the same time, I just believe that things like the role of parents in education is also very important as well. I think that's probably the point that you're doing, is having parental say in some of the curriculum and things like that. So that is provincial. So I will defer to Premier Ford on those types of things. But
thank you.
Thank you.
Because we sit on the Council of Imams, the Canadian Council of Imams, and I'm a director of the council.
So what is the position of Islam on homosexuality? They asked me this. It's a newspaper, right? So I said, put my name in the paper. The position is death, and we cannot change Islam. But then they said to me, and this is a question you got to consider. They said, what happens if a homosexual comes to the masjid? What are you going to do? So we said, Inna Allah yaghfiru dhunuba jami'an, Allah forgives all sins. If he's serious, and a person came to me, and he came in the office and he said he was homosexual, and he cried. And I said, what happened to you, man? And he said, my father abused me. He's a Muslim. So we felt sorry for the brother. I said, brother, you know you're sick? And he said, I'm sick. So we sent him to a Muslim psychiatrist so he can work through his problem and then bring him back into the masjid. So anything can come now these days. Anything's going to come at us. But we cannot allow, in the name of Islam, gay masjid to come. We cannot allow this, man. And they're trying to do this. It goes with Zionism. And really, it seems like, Allahu Alam, when Dajjal has his army, like it was going to be mostly Yahud, there'd probably be homosexuals with him too.
Over the last year and a half, some of from the CRA perspective, there have been certain masjids, certain mosques, and certain Islamic organizations that have been looked at quite seriously through the lens of CRA, and some of their charity designation have been pulled, suspended. I'm not defending the organizations because there were some wrong things that happened. However, there is a mosque in Ottawa that their designation was pulled because of speeches that was made by some of the imams. We sit on the Canadian Council of Imams. Some of those imams we know, their speeches were taken out of context. Very bad.
Meet Abu Usama at-Thahabi.
If I were to call homosexuals perverted, dirty, filthy dogs that should be murdered, that's my freedom of speech, isn't it?
It was one of the reasons why they pulled the designation from them. And we found it very, very disturbing, A. B, it seemed like that the Muslim organizations, charity organizations, were more targeted than other organizations. Because there has been, over the years, there have been in other places of worship, outside of the Muslim places of worship, people who have been invited to spread fear about Islam and fear-mongering against Muslims. But
jihad in Islam. What's the most beloved and favorite thing to Allah? Jihad fi sabilillah.
The CRA says the mosque failed to disclose the names of speakers, but government agents were able to uncover posters advertising guest appearances using some basic online searches. The document said there is no record of what the speaker said in the mosque, a requirement for charitable organizations. But tax agents had growing concerns the mosque was being used to propagate extremist views. The audit states radicalized individuals later arrested on terror charges attended the mosque, including Ashton Larmond, now in prison for attempting to join the Islamic State.
But their charities were left alone, and CRA did not go into it. They did not. So from that aspect, right, because it is a federal aspect, CRA is a federal aspect, what sort of, would you be willing to go to investigate it? Would you be willing to open up, an approach or a process to look into it, to see what is going on, right? To make sure that there is no specific groups, religious or non, in charity work that are targeted specifically.
Well, thank you very much for the feedback on that. I will certainly bring this back and look into the specific cases we're looking at. We have heard concerns about CRA, both at the individual and organizational level, and treating fairly and treating them. So let me commit to coming back to you. I think the key thing for people is to feel that there is fairness.
There's fairness,
and that
exactly.
if there is a principle that's being applied, that it's applied across the board, and that there's transparency.
Right.
And if there are decisions taken, it's clearly understood. So I think kind of three pillars of that would be fairness, transparency, and then the ability to have an appeal heard. Mm-hmm. So if there is supporting evidence and someone saying, this speech was not, it was taken out of context or it was clipped, and then there should be a mechanism for those people to have a hearing on that.
Right.
So I can come back to you with a more formal commitment. That would be my mindset.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Friends, I'm feeling very lucky to have a leader like Mr. Scheer. So I request all of you, because especially imams, you have thousands of followers behind you. So please, talk to community members, tell them what a leader thinks about our community, so that we can all work together. When New Zealand incident happened, so Mr. Scheer asked me to contact with the mosque, because he was not here in Toronto, he was not in Ottawa, he was in Saskatchewan. So.
Question where people say, why are non-Muslims in the masjid? They're filthy. Why are they here? They're not even dressed properly. Why are they coming in the masjid? They might be in their menstrual cycles.
But he wanted to go right away to the mosque, just for the condolences. But it was hard to find mosque and imam there. So luckily we found it. But what I meant is, we all need to work together. Since we are very lucky to have Mr. Scheer, who's willing to work with us openly.
In Islam, and they are found guilty by an Islamic court. One of the punishment is stoning to death. But for the believer, there's an important benefit. This act of stoning now, it's also purification for the believer.